The League of Legends Championship for 2013 was recently held in the Staples Center in LA. The live audience easily filled the stadium to capacity, with tickets sold out almost immediately after they became available. 32 million people tuned in to watch the live stream, with over 8.5 million people watching simultaneously at its peak. Compare this to the 2012 championship, where 8.2 million people watched the live stream and it peaked at 1.1 million simultaneous viewers. These rapidly increasing numbers for League of Legends are symbolic of the esports movement as a whole. Thanks to increasing internet speeds and connectivity, more and more people are able to tune into live feeds of their favourite games being played competitively at a high level. Competitive gaming is finally seeing worldwide recognition on the same level that it's already enjoyed in pioneering countries like Korea. There are sponsorships, prize pools, celebrity players. It feels like this is a key turning point in the general perception of video games. We want them to be accepted as a medium for everyone, not just as toys for kids. That's why it's so disappointing to hear this.
Okay, I was astounded, Soledad. I was astounded by that story. I had zero knowledge of the fact that this exists.
You didn't know there were cyber athletes?
My hand to God, I didn't know there were but my issue is it's still not a sport.
Well, again,
it's a game. You follow me what I'm saying here, Bert?
20 million people who are watching the damn thing.
And the money
they
that
gotta
they're
be
making.
crazier than
And
the
they're paying
ones
big money to watch it.
It's
This is a short clip from a segment on HBO's sports discussion program, Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel. The concept for this show is to talk about sports-related issues that other shows don't cover. In this case, they bring up the recent League of Legends Championship and introduce the story as if they're going to discuss this exciting new development in the esports scene. What follows is a couple of minutes of confusion, insults, and surly old men making Star Trek references.
Do you have any statistics on how many of those people also go to Star Trek conventions?
There's virtually no genuine discussion about League of Legends, or esports as a whole, probably since there is no one on the panel who knows anything at all about the subject.
I was astounded by that story. I had zero knowledge of the fact that this exists.
In all, it was a woeful few minutes on a show that made the majority of the panelists look like high school bullies, desperately trying to discredit a nerdy activity they know nothing about. It's really hard to look at this segment objectively, especially since the hosts seem to let their prejudices flow freely as they bumbled their way through the story. But as irritating as this segment was in isolation, the issues raised there are symptomatic of a much, much larger problem. Like it or not, there's a lot of power and legitimacy associated with things generally considered as sports. There are the obvious ones like basketball or tennis that show people at their peak physical form. Then there are those that are still sports, but don't require quite the same athletic ability and are more reliant on skill and talent. Think of golf or bowling. Then there are the fringe sports. These are the sports you see on TV at 4 in the morning. Sports that many people disregard in spite of their competitive communities. Fishing, darts, snooker. These are all regarded as sports, even if it's difficult to call the players athletes. This is where esports comes in. There is undoubtedly physical training that is required of the competitors. As well as needing quick reaction times, their movements to control the game require training and maintenance. One look at a player's hands during a heated StarCraft match will clearly show why the actions per minute of a player can take their toll physically. Realistically, they don't have to put in the same level of physical training as a high-level soccer or hockey player, so it's understandable that people may have difficulty calling the players athletes in the same way. It doesn't take away from the fact that these people train to win at a competitive game. This is the line from the segment earlier that rankled me the most. When one of the hosts writes off League of Legends being a game, and then seconds later praises football as being a real sport. Newsflash, football's a game too. An interesting point is that the international players that visited LA for the tournament were granted sports visas to enter the US. For once, the US government seems to be a step ahead of the rest. On one hand, we shouldn't allow ourselves to be too concerned with the terminology used to describe our competitive community. Right now, the entire idea of competitive video gaming is so new, we're trying to mould old ideas and terminology to suit it. Would it make a big difference if we changed the name Esports to E-comps? There'd still be tournaments, there'd still be players. On the other hand, for the sake of the financial security and growth of the competitive community, we also need to try and include as many people as possible. This would be substantially easier if people accepted and regarded gaming as a legitimate sport. If even one person on that panel in this segment had been involved in the gaming community before they went live, I'm sure it would all have gone down very differently. Like it or not, sports are a big deal in nearly every country in the world, and being considered a sport would go a long way to establishing video games as a worthwhile medium in the eyes of the older generation. We shouldn't be attacking hosts like these. Instead, we should be trying to get them more involved, because we want more people playing. We want more people watching. Let's not be bitter about this. Let's take the high road on this one. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of The Game Room. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and follow us on Twitter. And now I'm going to leave you with the Game Room quote of the week.